Good evening and welcome to Watchman on the Wall. Thank you for joining us. Tonight we visit Cornerstone Institute here in Saltwater in Cape Town. And we're going to speak to Tony Giorgio, Principal Wayne Herman, and a few of the students to find out a little bit about what is happening with Christian education at a tertiary level. Tony Giorgio, thank you for hosting us here at Cornerstone College in Saltwater. It's a beautiful facility you have here. Tell me something, is Cornerstone a new learning institution?
Yeah, thanks, Errol. No, Cornerstone was actually started in 1970 by a missionary couple from America. They came out with a view to educating previously disadvantaged individuals and preparing them for a career in ministry.
Is that the couple we're talking about over there?
Yes, no, that's right. There's the Aishlemans. The Aishlemans came out in 1970 and they had a vision to educate previously disadvantaged students and prepare them for a career in ministry. And they started in 1970 in a small house in the Cape Flats.
So Cornerstone is going since 1970?
Yeah, 43 years now.
43 years. And this is the couple?
Yes, that's right. They're still both alive. I haven't met them, but I'm told they were last out here about 7 or 8 years back.
And you say they started where?
In a small house in the Cape Flats. They started in one of the rooms, and it's grown from initially 5 or 6 students to basically where we are today.
From its humble beginnings in the Cape Flats.
Yeah, very humble.
To this here today.
Very humble beginnings.
That's amazing.
We've been blessed. Thank you.
I'm talking to Ashley and Marlon, 2 students at Cornerstone Institute here in Saltwater in Cape Town. Now, Ashley, you've been studying for 3 years. What are you studying?
I'm doing a BTH in Christian ministry.
And Marlon?
Yeah, I'm also doing a BTH in Christian ministry.
Okay, tell me your experience at Cornerstone Christian Institute. What has it been like?
It's been a truly enriching experience, simply for the mere fact of coming here and doing a 3 years BTH in Christian ministry and covering the amount of modules that you're covering over this time. I covered 52 modules within my 3 years, so the narrow perspective that I came in with and what I'm leaving with is completely changed. It's completely grown. The worldview that I have when I came in is completely grown to a more holistic worldview, which I'm completely grateful for Cornerstone for. Yes.
Now, what are some of the things that stood out for you at Cornerstone in your learning experience?
I think what truly stood out for me was cultural anthropology, cultural skills, understanding various other cultures, and not only just that, but also understanding a complete understanding of a biblical worldview, something that we won't find in the church context itself, but what you're finding here is something that you can actually, something concrete that you can actually take back into communities and into the world that can actually allow them a good space for them to grow.
Now, Marlon, you're also studying a similar course, but what has been your experience at Cornerstone?
I think there's been lots of things that I could talk about, but I think the one thing that I think that it really stands out for me as I reflect on these last 4 years is probably that Cornerstone, I think, creates spaces for belonging, where you truly find who you are, so that it's not just about fitting in, so that education, for example, isn't just simply about making you, it's not just about reading enough books or getting that A or whatever, but it really is about place of belonging. And so I think in finding your own sense of who you are, I think you'll help other people to find who they are, and I think that's what Cornerstone gives.
So there's great interaction between the students and the lecturers.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Oh, absolutely. I think so I have previous tertiary experience, and I think the thing when I came here from like a major university to this, one of the biggest thing was that kind of intimacy where lecturers are just calling you by your name, when you're not sitting in a class of 500, but people actually know who you are. And so I've built up friendships over these last 4 years with people who've taught me. So it's not just a lecturer-student relationship, but really, really good friendships that have seriously, I think, I suppose, helped me and really contributed to my life.
Okay. And what is Ashley's plans for the future?
Well, I'm planning to do a postgrad in an honors program within theology. Yeah. And then from there, possibly take it out into the marketplace and try to mend the marketplace with theology. Yeah.
So you want to become a marketplace minister?
Something in that line, yes, or possibly in NGO work itself, in social justice work, and that's a true passion, and that's something that I never got before I came to Cornerstone, but while being at Cornerstone, true social justice issues really arose in me, and relating that to the biblical text and applying that into the world.
That's great. And you, Marlon?
I'm thinking of pursuing some sort of career in peace studies. And I suppose really looking at what does it mean for societies to be peaceful, where peace actually exists, whether it be from an economic perspective, from a theological perspective, in which I suppose undergirds the whole thing, and really creating spaces where people can belong and be loved. Yeah.
Well, I wish you both well in your future, and may you go from strength to strength. Thank you. So, Tony, Cornerstone College has a compelling vision. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, Errol, what happened was when I got involved, they approached me to help from a business perspective. The natural progression or the natural expansion of the college was to move it into the e-learning space. And that would be one way that we could re-engineer the business and make it sustainable. But after interviewing some of the students and the faculty and the alumni, it became clear to me that what made Cornerstone unique and special was the relationship that existed between the students and the faculty and the bridging programs that had been developed over the years, which took previously disadvantaged individuals who'd gone through a schooling system in the old apartheid era, which was substandard. We can dress it up any way we want, but the reality is what is a substandard schooling system. Yeah. And by sowing into the lives of the students here, Cornerstone had brought them through and enabled them to graduate at the same level as the students that had gone through UCT or Tux or Stellenbosch or any of the state-owned universities. And we're all accredited and governed by the same body, which is the Council on Higher Education. So what happened was, in looking at re-engineering the business side of Cornerstone, it became clear to me and my team that we needed to replicate that experience. And that's when we conceived this fantastic new concept, which is the CLC concept, which is a partnership between Cornerstone and the churches, where Cornerstone provides the academic education and the church provides the whole character development and spiritual formation program. And they provide the environment, and they provide that whole community where you have a community learning experience, which is really at the essence of what Cornerstone is.
Warren, as head of student services here at Cornerstone, what would you say is the main attraction of students studying at Cornerstone?
Well, students have the opportunity not just to study there in their field, but they also have an experience here that is influenced by the Christian ethos. So I think they choose to come here because the workforce out there need students and graduates such as what we produce here with a Christian moral standing. And I think that's what we need in our world today. Yes.
Have you seen a discernible difference in the students at Cornerstone compared to young people studying in other tertiary institutions?
Yeah. I think the difference is basically on the experience that they have here. We have small classes, and with the small classes come a very personal interaction with staff and faculty, and then students as well. So when they leave from here, they have that warmth and that global experience, and that influences them and how they perceive others outside. So we deal with how to see the other and not just our own education. So a lot of programs and a lot of the course they take here is influenced by that specific fact. We deal with how do you share yourself in the process of learning, and then how do you connect with the outside world as well. So I think when they leave here, they have that whole global experience, a holistic experience with both the education, but also with the content that they had to wrestle with first.
How important do you think it is to have values underpinning academic education?
Very important, because most of us students that comes here, and we understand that a lot of students from different cultures and different countries, and they what they have in common basically is that they all are from backgrounds that is wrought with emotional distraught and emotional scarring. So when they come here, they get the support, the sustenance, the ethos, the Christian ethos that supports what they need from here. And so when they leave from this place, they leave whole, they leave healed, as well as educated. So yes.
Yeah, so it's a lot of people that, young people that are studying, they're getting the head knowledge, but they're lacking in the heart knowledge. Will you agree with that?
That's exactly it, yes. And we've understood, and we had to accommodate, different needs. And student service itself had to revamp over the course of years to support the needs of our students that comes with those kind of backgrounds, not just academic needs, but those interpersonal relationships or interpersonal things themselves, family needs, and they come here. And we do have those kind of services in places where it's not just an academic liberal arts school, but we do have those kind of support bases. We have a counseling center here that house students with those kind of needs to help them make them successful. Because we assume that students have these different issues and that influences their academics here. And we want to put the services where the needs are of our students. And that's what we concentrate on here. I think that's what makes us successful.
Thanks, Warren. Great speaking to you. Now, Tony, part of the vision of Cornerstone Institute is to become the national Christian university in South Africa and to establish Cornerstone Learning Communities all over the country. You went around and met with Christian leadership in South Africa. What was their support like for this concept?
It's an interesting process we've been through. Initially, there were a couple of the leaders of mega churches who were very exclusive and wanted to do their own thing. And then after just going through the benefits of setting out a Christian university for everybody, and they realized by supporting one initiative which had every success or every chance of succeeding, it benefited the kingdom. And that's really what it's about. Cornerstone is a resource, and we're setting up an infrastructure basically for the kingdom. And once it's established, we will make it available to anybody who's got appropriate content that they want to distribute widely.
So essentially, what the churches is going to provide is the facility and the space for students, and you, Cornerstone, is going to provide the content.
Correct. And the church also appoints a mentor. The mentor is the individual that spends his time with the students, with the youth, and helps them in terms of the spiritual formation and the character development program, and make sure that the facilities all work. And then what we do is we use state-of-the-art technology, and we stream the content to a Linux server. We put all the infrastructure in terms of the technology, and the Linux server is the receptacle of the content, which is streamed overnight. And then we give each student a tablet computer, and the student comes into the CLC and they download the content off the server wirelessly, so you're not dependent on internet bandwidth for the large files associated with video content. And they connect to the online server, and the online server manages their content and takes them through the program. And what happens now, there are a number of tools which are freely available throughout the world, and Google has been very instrumental in developing these online learning tools. And we use tools that are generally available to bring about this futuristic learning experience, which is all based on what they call flipping the classroom. Now, what flipping the classroom means, it's you do your lesson on your own on a computer, and then you come together with your peers in the presence of a subject expert where you unpack the concept. Now, in a school environment, that would be typically you would go to school to do your homework, and you do your lesson at home on a computer. So it's flipping the classroom, and the research is unanimous. The absorption rates of students now using this method of learning is far higher, because they're engaged in terms of the use of the technology, and then when they need to unpack and understand the concepts, they do it with their peers. And it's been shown that peer group instruction is a very powerful method of teaching, and they do it with a subject expert who's present at their own pace. So if a student needs a little more time to unpack a concept, he's not under pressure because he's holding the whole class up or his whole group up. So that's the concept of learning that we're using.
Which is unique in that it offers convenience, accessibility, affordability, and quality.
Well, of course, because the biggest advantage, other than the fact that you get a holistic education, which is education of the head, the hands, and the heart, you also get it on your doorstep. So now if you have a child or a son or daughter who needs to go to university, and you live in one of the outlying areas, say for example Bethlehem or Swellendam or Mossel Bay or any of the centres that are not Cape Town or Johannesburg,
yes.
you have to send your child out of, they have to go and live away from home to actually do their education.
That's right.
And I, for example, my daughter, we live in Somerset West, my daughter goes to UCT because we didn't offer the program she wanted at Cornerstone. Her tuition, and she's doing a BA in Communications and Media, they call it a BA Humanities, her tuition is 40,000 a year, and then for the privilege of her living away from home, it costs me another 80,000 a year. So her tuition is 120,000. We have a CLC which will kick off in January in Somerset West, and you'll be able to do exactly the same program next year for 30,000 a year.
Wow, so that significantly reduces the cost.
Well, yeah, I would still have to pay some costs to petrol and cell phone, but it's going to be a saving of at least half of the money that one would spend by your child living away from home.
I'm talking to Catherine Woolridge, a second-year student at Cornerstone Institute. And Catherine, what are you studying?
I'm studying a Bachelor of Theology, majoring in Community Development.
And you also serve on the SRC.
Yes, that's correct.
So what are some of the responsibilities involved with being a member of the SRC?
Well, we're supposed to be the voice of the students. We raise their concerns, they come speak to us, we try to sort that out. We also try to build community. So we have an hour every week or every second week where we get everyone together and we have community building activities that we do.
Tell me, what are some of the experiences, you've been here for 2 years, you're going on to your third year next year, some of the experience at Cornerstone that stood out for you?
I would say that the lecturers, we have wonderful lecturers who are there willing to support us, be with us through our struggles.
And so you're facing challenges and you are taught to deal with those challenges, and the lectures help you with that?
Yeah, it's a wonderful growing experience. I feel that I've been put in an environment where I'm allowed to grow and develop into the person that I'm supposed to be.
So here at Cornerstone, the academics is underpinned by a biblical value-based system. How important do you believe that value system is?
To me, it's essential because when you're dealing with community issues, the biblical principles that underlie the education I'm receiving just reinforce the values of community building, community sharing, human dignity, universal principles that need to be adhered to in community development.
Do you believe that the value system that you taught at Cornerstone, it's vital in that it supports the value system that you've been taught at home?
Well, in a sense, yes, but I also feel that I've been challenged in many areas, and I think that's a good thing, to not be set in your ways and to learn to open your mind to different ways of seeing things. But it is biblically based, so yeah, that's a good thing. Yeah.
Thank you, Kate. Caroline, you've been with Cornerstone Institute as the registrar for 22 years. So you have some good history and must have seen many students come and go. Tell us some of the stories that stick with you.
Well, one of the most important stories that I think I heard of yesterday is one of our students who's graduating with an honours degree. And she has been with us for about 9 years. And she started with us as a cleaner. And when she was a cleaner, I saw that this woman had potential. And I said to her, why don't you do our evening classes in counselling? She said, no, I can't. I can't. I'll never be able to. I said, just go try. And she did. She finished her certificate, still being a cleaner at the college. Then she went on to her degree in psychology. And this year she's finishing with her honours. And she tells me one day she's going to get a doctorate. So she says her book is going to be From Domestic to Doctor. Isn't that wonderful?
That is incredible.
So
that is an incredible story.
That's a wonderful story, which is a story from the present. But one of the stories from the past which stands out is from 2004. A middle-aged gentleman from Shoshanguve. He came to us. He'd been a pastor for 15 years and hadn't had formal post-schooling education to be a pastor, so he came to us to do our theological studies. He graduated in 2004, and he was one of the first students to get our degree when we were allowed to confer degrees, when we were given permission by the Department of Education at that time, because prior to that private institutions couldn't confer degrees. So we were very proud that this gentleman was going to be one of our first. But subsequent to that, he went home to continue being a pastor. He got 2 master's degrees from the University of Pretoria, and he's just graduated with a PhD in theology from the University of Pretoria. And there was an unschooled, unqualified pastor from Shoshanguve. So that's another one of our stories.
2 incredible stories of 2 lives completely transformed through coming through the Cornerstone Institute experience.
And I think it's not only education, but I think here we try and give people a sense of self-worth, a sense that you've got a voice, you can make a difference, now go out there and do it.
And it's obviously working.
It is working, yes.
Caroline, thank you for talking to us.
It's a pleasure.
And we'll be back maybe later to hear some more life-changing stories
yes,
from
every year we have them.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you. Secho, you are a first-year student at Cornerstone Institute here in Saltova. What are you studying?
I'm studying VA Psychology.
Okay, so what has your experience been like at Cornerstone?
So far, so good. Since I came here in January, in fact in February, I found this place to be one of the most different institutions. And I've realized that it's so different in such a way that the way the setup has been placed, the systems, it's so different from other institutions. So that's what makes it more different and I guess good and perfect for me.
So you like the setup here, and tell us a little bit about what attracts you.
It's not formal, it's very much informal, and that reduces levels of stress and enhances my learning experience as well. And it's much more focused also on experiential learning, so it's not always about the lecturer saying or teaching all the time, but it gives us as students to work together and get familiar with the concepts, get familiar with whatever that has been taught together. It's easier that way when you've got your peer explaining things to you than always having a lecturer always saying this and this and that. So I find that much more simple. The learning complex it's comfortable. It's well put up for all the students.
So you believe this helps you along. Have you applied to other learning institutions before you came to Cornerstone?
Yes, I did apply to UCT. I did apply to University of Western Cape, and unfortunately, the responses that I got were not good.
But are you thankful today that you were accepted at Cornerstone?
I'm very much thankful. I didn't even know there was something like this, an institution called Cornerstone, as this beautiful, as this comfortable, as this, very vibey and very casual, but yet with good education.
Cornerstone is known for its biblical ethos and values. Do you think that's important in what you're studying?
Yes, it is very important because according to psychology, you can never separate the physical side or the mental cognitive thinking of an individual from the spiritual side. So they do incorporate together to form a person. So there's no way that you can separate the two, the spiritual side, the spiritual aspect from the physical aspect. So as a result, that has been it seems to be quite a fundamental base of any education, and specifically in psychology.
So you would say that the spiritual basis for your education is vital for where you want to go one day. And where do you want to go one day?
I want to see myself beyond being a psychologist, above that, because I've got dreams, I've got plans in the pipeline of actually one day having my own organization or having my own orphanage where I will be dealing with only children, because children have got a potential, But in the government, or rather in the society of today, only what is being mostly done is providing for the basic needs, but not the potentials of the children. For instance, if you know that a child from the age of 4 upwards has a talent in drawing, why don't you help the child to actually grow and mature in that talent, and probably get them like educators, facilitators, or workshops to do all the art. And then 3 years to come, it's like a big thing, and they're selling, and then it all comes back to the orphanage, and it also boosts the confidence of the child as well. So it's win-win in all situations, and then the child can also get to choose whether they want a formal career or what they want to continue with their art.
Do you believe that your time here at Cornerstone has inspired you to community service?
Yes, it has, because we've been going out all around Salt River, and we have times where we minister out to the people. We have time where it's not only just ministering the word, but it's also food. We have some times where we just also pray with the people outside, just socialize, go out together to the parks. And so we have impacted somehow some more the community.
Secha, it was wonderful speaking to you, and I believe that you're going to be a great success. We wish you all the best.
Thank you very much. It was lovely to be here.
We've seen such challenges in state-owned universities with regards to the morals of our youth being broken down. My own daughter's at UCT, and she's been exposed to some really, really scary stuff in terms of just the pressures on these youth from a ethical and moral perspective. So we now are unanimous that the time is here for the Christian community to get behind the setting out of a university to serve the needs of the Christian community.
And when you say we, you talking about the Christian leadership in South Africa?
Well, initially we started just by putting the concept together, but over the last 3 to 4 months, we've been having high-level discussions with many of the very influential top Christian leaders in South Africa. And I'm encouraged to say it's been unanimous, the support for getting behind an initiative like this.
So Christian leadership unanimously are saying it is time now for a Christian-based university like Cornerstone College to be established and to begin to obviously give Christian students an option or not alternative.
Yeah, it's not only Christian students, but it's all students who would like to be educated with a biblical worldview.
Wayne, Cornerstone uses both virtual space and physical space to enhance the learning experience for your students. Tell us how that learning experience works.
Well, in the CLC model, the Cornerstone Learning Communities, we have students who would come together to download learning content. That content could take one of several forms. It can be video lectures, which will be one of the key components of that content. It will also be reading materials that the students will access via their link up to the server there. It will be assignments that they will be able to work on. They'll be able to do research online through the resources that we make available to them, or just what's out on the internet. And through a variety of those kinds of learning experiences, they will complete the requirements that they have for the class. But one of the key components is actually what we're calling tutorial sessions. And those tutorial sessions will be live tutorials conducted via the internet, but we'll have a group of students who will sit around at each one of the Cornerstone Learning Centers, and from there they will interact with the lecturer who will be on the other end, engaging them with questions, with content, and helping them unpack the content that they're working on.
So let me clarify. The lecturer will be based here at the main campus in Salt River.
That's right.
And Cornerstone Learning Communities can be anywhere in the country, at churches that's providing the facility.
Churches or schools, yeah, and any kind of community center that we end up working with.
And so the connection will be via the internet, and they'll be able to interact with their lecturer, but still remain in a kind of campus environment because they're in learning communities.
That's right. The Cornerstone prides itself on being a learning community. That's something we've identified as part of who we are, a learning community. And so in extending our reach to the Cornerstone Learning Communities, we're trying to replicate that part of the Cornerstone learning experience by having a community around the learner who can help support the learner in their working through the material. So it's not simply distance education via a set of notes and readings and you're on your own. It's rather bringing people together so that they can learn through interaction, and not just virtual interaction, but interaction in the same center with a group of, let's say, BA students who are all doing a class together on sociology or psychology, and they together are part of that tutorial session along with, say, 3 or 4 or 5 other groups of students at other Cornerstone Learning Community centers who are doing that all at the same time.
So it's the classroom environment without being in an actual classroom with the lecturer there. Yeah. You can have the lecture via the internet, but you can have the peers sitting together so they can interact with each other. So you're not losing anything. You're still creating the environment, the learning environment, connecting with the lecturer, even though he's a couple of 1,000 kilometers away, but still maintaining the environment. It's unique, and I think it's going to enable thousands more students all over the country to get a higher learning degree because they don't have to travel out of the area they live in.
Yeah, the cost differential of not having to go away to varsity, to not having to relocate to another city and pay the additional costs of housing and everything else represent a huge savings.
And it's significant because that's usually one of the reasons why students cannot study further. It's because of the cost factor.
Yeah. And the fact that, you know, within the Cornerstone Learning Communities, the CLCs, we will have internet access available for the students, which many students still don't have easy access to. So by providing that for them, we're making it possible for them to study in a way that they would not perhaps be able to study on their own because of the lack of internet access and capacity.
Accessibility, yes.
Accessibility.
So you guys provide that as well to students?
Yeah, it's provided at the CLC. So they would come into that, and then they would be able to get access to everything that they need.
So you could virtually have hundreds of CLCs all over the country, connected to the main campus here in Salt River in Cape Town. Yeah. Another thing that caught my eye is the character development program that's dependent on the 4 levels of engagement with content, engagement with the lecturer, self and others. And then of course the spiritual formation program. Now all of this is very important in South Africa. We see in the news almost on a weekly basis of just the breakdown of morality, of ethics, of values amongst young people. And what we desperately need in our country is this character development, is the values, because academics without a strong value system doesn't help much. If we just look what's happening with our leadership around in South Africa and around the world, with high levels of corruption and all of that. So what Cornerstone is doing, I believe, is vital for South Africa's future as a nation, that we need to raise up leaders not only with sound academics, but also with sound moral values. And so tell us a little bit about the character development program.
Yeah, we refer to it as personal formation because we see it as trying to develop students holistically. In my years of working here at Cornerstone, I've recognized that when students struggle academically, most times it's not because they're weak academic students. It's because they have some kind of personal issue in their life that they're wrestling with, they're struggling with. It may be a broken family, it may be just issues of self-esteem, it may be a lack of a support network around them. There are all kinds of issues that students end up struggling with that impact on their ability to be successful academically. And so what we see this component doing is helping strengthen the core of the students at a personal level, and so hence personal formation. is what we've chosen to call it. And it includes the spiritual formation, it includes the character development, but it's really saying we want to build up this student holistically, not just concerned about their spirituality, but concerned about their emotions and about their intellect and about every aspect of the person. And so we will look at things like issues of identity. You know, who am I? Who am I in relation to God? Who am I in relation to others? Who is the other? And defining those others in a way that allows students to learn from others, learn from those who are different from themselves, and not simply categorize people as other and different and therefore, you know, outside of my parameter, but rather be open to what one can learn from people who come from a different background, who come from different life experiences. And then we'll look at the issues of family and what does it mean to be a part of a family, what does it mean to be a part of God's family, and how does that shape our identity and our sense of self-worth. We'll look at issues of our own emotions, our feelings. How do we get in touch with our own sense of who we are and how we feel about life, how we feel about ourselves, how we feel about others. Because we find that with students, those are often questions that we don't ask and that students don't have to stop and think about. But when they do stop and think about it, it can be a really enriching experience for them. And we'll look at issues of pain and how do we process pain and joy as well. What are the things that really motivate us, that excite us? You know, what is it that a student really is wanting to do or become? And so it's really trying to find ways to help the students develop holistically as they're developing academically and intellectually. We want to make sure that that's not the only focus of what we're developing is the intellectual side.
Yeah. So you're developing the whole person.
Exactly.
Preparing them for life. Not only, as you say, academically, but for all aspects of life.
Yeah, it's to be good citizens. It's to be holistic leaders. You know, the kind of leaders that can help others because they themselves are working from a position of inner strength rather than from a position of inner weakness.
I think you touch on a very important aspect there, and that is preparing students to become good citizens. Not just academics, not the knowledge about what you're studying, that's all, but preparing you to be good citizens. I think that's where we're failing, because people might be good at a certain discipline, but haven't learned how to be good people, how to be good citizens, how to interact with others. And I think what Cornerstone is doing here is vital, especially for the nation. So we wish you huge success.
Thank you. And it's really a model of servant leadership. I mean, that's ultimately what we're trying to engender in the students, is the ability for them to not exalt themselves, but to take that servant leadership role and really lead from that position rather than leading from an authoritarian type of...
And servant leadership, I mean, there's such a great need for that in South Africa. Just even an understanding of what servant leadership means. So we wish you well at Cornerstone. As the principal, you're doing a great job, and we hope that many Cornerstone learning communities are established all over the country, because what you have, many young people need in South Africa today.
Thank you.
So Taryn, it's so great talking to you. You work here at Cornerstone Institute. What do you do here?
I'm in the sales and marketing department.
But you're also studying?
Yes, I completed my undergraduate degree in psychology last year, and presently I'm pursuing my honors degree in psychology.
Now, I've heard you have a very interesting testimony. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, after matric, I had absolutely no idea of what I wanted to do, and I tried different jobs, worked in government, until I finally became a singer. And that took me to the Middle East and to Europe. And although it was an amazing experience and I was able to travel the world and meet many different cultures, I had the sense in my spirit that there was more to me than just singing to the wealthy of this world. And there was an emptiness. And so one night, after yet another singing job, I went down to my lonely hotel room in Dubai, and I prayed this prayer. I had no relationship with God, and so I had the audacity to pray these words, and I said, God, if you exist, if you're out there, show me why I was born. Show me why you purposed me. Show me why you created me. Give me a job for you. And God answered that prayer in ways that still leaves me gobsmacked today, completely speechless. He led me to a place called Cornerstone Institute, and it was through their academic programs, their lecturers that not only teach but nurture, their focus on character development, their sense of community, that God showed me why I was born. And that was to enter into a therapeutic relationship with brokenness, with people who had lost all hope, with young women who had low self-esteem, to direct them towards the God of hope and to journey with them towards a place of assembling those broken pieces and reaching a place of wholeness, and knowing that we're not meant to be perfect, but that in our perfection we are usable for God's perfect plan. And so now I unequivocally know why I was born. And
that's a wonderful story. So you in the Middle East, you're a singer, you're performing in hotels and all of that, but there's this emptiness. And so you're searching, and God speaks to you that you need something more.
Yes.
And so you come back to South Africa.
Yes.
And whilst in South Africa, you're looking for a job?
Yes, I was looking for a job after graduating. My father was struck with cancer, and so after graduating, there was no job coming forth, and God showed me that my work was my father at the time. And 2 months after he passed, God opened this door to walk in Cornerstone. So it's a double blessing to be able to work in the very institution that has showed me what my purpose is. And so for me, this is more than work.
Yeah.
You know.
So you found your purpose in Cornerstone because you're working here, you're part of the staff, but you also studied. And so what's the experience like being here amongst the students, the lecturers?
It's like being home, because I'm officially an orphan now. Both my parents are gone, and so to be able to work in a place where I feel like these are my brothers and my sisters and my family, I feel safe and secure. I want to add that Cornerstone's not only given me my purpose, it's shown me that I have a voice, and it's given me the courage to use that voice in the world.
Have you ever considered singing for the Lord?
I have, but I'm still waiting on how, when, you know. But what I do know is that God wants to send me back into where I came from, because that's where the deep brokenness is, you know, and to be able to use my talent in conjunction with ministry. And that's my heart's desire.
I've asked the other students this question. I'm going to ask you the same thing. The Bible-based education here at Cornerstone, it's obviously unique amongst the other learning institutions, the secular learning institutions. How important do you believe that biblical base is?
I feel that it is critical. Without it, I'm nothing. Prior to meeting Jesus, I was a UNISA student. I then entered into a relationship with Christ, and I wanted to come to a place where I was able to integrate my faith with my academic knowledge, my psychology with my biblical view, and Cornerstone gives you that. So when I go into a counseling room now, it's not as Taryn, the therapist, alone, but it is Taryn with the Holy Spirit being guided, and I've seen the impact of that in counseling sessions.
Yeah. Taryn, it's been inspiring speaking to you. I think you found your place. I think God's got a lot more for you, and we're going to plot your progress. We'll come visit you perhaps in a year's time and see what God is doing in and through your life. I hope you return to singing, and one day you'll be worshiping God on a stage and using your talent to glorify Him.
Thank you so much for having me.
So the uniqueness of what Cornerstone is offering is encapsulated in this Cornerstone Learning Communities, where you can have the CLCs all over the country connecting with the main campus here in Salt River without losing anything, without losing quality, without losing the learning experience. This is what makes Cornerstone unique.
Well, I've had a number of meetings now with people from around the world, and yesterday we met with Wynand Du Plessis, who was previously, he runs our master's program. He's based in in Australia. And around the world, we've not heard of this anywhere. And they're very keen on this program in America. They're very keen on this method of teaching in Australia. And we've not heard of it anywhere on earth, other than some Bible colleges where they've put Bible training or biblical or theology training into churches. But this is the first instance we've heard of where you can do normal university education at your local church. If I could just talk about the vision of Cornerstone. Cornerstone's vision is to change the fabric of the society that we live in. And the vision is to do this through the education of the individual and leaders of the future by providing them with an education which is founded on biblical principles, where they have a moral compass. Because we all bear testimony to what happens to highly educated leaders if we look at our neighbour Zimbabwe, for example, where the leader doesn't have the ethical base to be able to make the right decisions, and how that can destroy an entire nation.
That's right.
And now by rolling Cornerstone out widely, we will now be able to make that impact, where we are touching the lives of thousands of students around South Africa.
Touching the lives of thousands of future leaders of this nation.
Correct, future leaders. And we are able to, because it's small communities where you've only got 20 to 30 students at a church, they are intimately engaged with the mentor, and they're actively engaged with the content. So that brings about a really character-formed education.
So this mentorship program is very important, it's vital, especially when you refer to what is happening in our nation and other nations today with the breakdown of morality and character in leaders. I think the mentorship program is going to help to strengthen that, the moral fiber of our nation.
Absolutely, and there is little doubt that character formation is learned through experience, and it's learned by servant leadership. It's learned by being involved with programs at the church, being involved with community outreach programs, being involved with the spiritual development programs. It's not something you read in a book.
That's right. Michael Louis, it is great to talk to you about Cornerstone Institute and the vision that you've had on your heart for quite a while now. And what's it like to see this vision become a reality?
It's actually outstanding, because I think God has prepared a person to stand up in the marketplace. And only now, the last couple of years, I've really understood the power and effect of Christians standing up in the marketplace and being educated, and your mind really being transformed. But also how important it is. So it's a great vision, not only my vision, but many people prior to me building up something as special as Cornerstone.
So now this is going to be taken out, and many young people that previously couldn't have access to higher education, especially values-based higher education, is going to get this. How do you feel about that? How does that make you feel?
Well, I think the big thing is there's a big responsibility on that, because it doesn't go about numbers. God is never a person of numbers. He's always about the quality of what goes across.
That's right.
And I think as long as we get more and more marketplace leaders that are prepared to impart their knowledge and their experiences of how critical, important it is to exercise your faith in whatever profession you are or whatever position you are in the marketplace. And in the times that we're heading up, I think it's becoming more and more important to speak verbally about it and educate and train our next generation.
Yeah, I think it was your principle that said we not only giving people head knowledge, but we want to prepare them to be good citizens. And you and I know that I think the most desperate need in South Africa today is young people getting an education, maybe the head and academic knowledge, but to bolster that with good biblical moral values.
Well, I think you don't need to go to an educational facility. Me as a parent, as a father, I want my child not only to be educated, but I want them to become a whole person. That's with right. The values that embody Christ. And so I think that's what Cornerstone's wanting to do, is that when we release our children up into the environment, they are whole people with head and heart knowledge. Yeah. And one of the highlights of my year is when I actually go to the prize giving at Cornerstone, and you get a young individual that got 6 distinctions in matric, and when they stand on that stage, they understand the value of a Christ-based value education. And it doesn't go about being the big universities and the blue chip governance. It goes about standing and representing who you are and what the Holy Spirit has done in your life at university. It's incredible, and what a privilege to serve them and their visionary and to take that custodianship very, very seriously.
Yeah, and you've been involved in politics, you've been involved in the business world, in all kinds of spheres. And I think you have a good understanding of how important values-based education is, especially at the tertiary level, because we see what is happening in our nation today. We, in the media, almost daily, there are articles and stories about young people just wasting their lives away because they don't have the proper value basis undergirding them. And this is what Cornerstone is trying to do. So, Michael, we want to thank you for being the visionary behind Cornerstone Institute. We want to thank you for what is happening, for taking education to a lot more people that previously couldn't get access to it, and for making it as easy as Cornerstone has made it.
Well, thank you, Errol. Obviously, it's a group of people that have been responsible to it, but I'd like to end with the following message. The time has come that we're all building a brand. Cornerstone's building a brand, but you building a brand, and I'm building a brand. And the time has come that the next generation must build their brand as being a proud Christian advocate, a proud Christian teacher, a proud Christian environmentalist, a proud Christian politician. And unfortunately, whether you like it or not, Cornerstone is the only institution that can build that brand for them. So I wish them luck, and any of the viewers that are watching this program, the time is now that they can enroll their children for the next generation to build on that brand.
Unashamedly Christian.
That's what it is.
Michael Louis, thank you.
Thank you, Errol. Bless you for all the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Really proud of you.
Thank you. Well, that's our show for tonight. Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the show as much as we did. Remember to go to our website, familypolicyinstitute.com, and subscribe to our weekly newsletter. Also remember that the latest Joy magazine is now available at all retail stores across the country. And so here from Cornerstone Institute, we want to bid you good night. And so on behalf of Cornerstone and the students here, we wish you good night and God bless.